Anthropic just launched something called Claude Design, and it's powered by their brand new Opus 4.7 model. And it's pretty insane. So with that being said, let's get into it. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through what Claude Design is, how to use it, what you can make with it, and most importantly, how to not torch your usage limit in 30 seconds like I did. And if you're a business owner, a marketer, a consultant, or anyone who's ever needed to make a slide deck or a one-pager and thought, hey, I wish I didn't have to open Canva for this, this is probably the most important AI launch of the month for you. So let's get into it. So let's take a quick look at Claude Design. So it's in research preview right now, which basically means it's a real shipping product, but they're still iterating on it. You get it by going to claude.ai/design if you're on the Pro, Max, Team, or Enterprise versions. And the whole pitch here is pretty simple. Describe what you want, be it a slide deck, a one-pager, or website prototype, maybe even a pitch deck, and Claude builds the first version for you. Then you can refine it by talking to it, clicking on stuff, or dragging AI-generated sliders that control specific elements. When you're done, you export it to PDF, PowerPoint, standalone HTML, shareable URL, or you can send it straight into Canva to finish up. So let's take a quick look around at the new platform. On the left side, you're going to see Prototype, which is where you can create wireframes or high-fidelity mockups. Then down here, you see the setup design system. If I click that, this is where you can tell Claude about your company and attach any design resources that you may have, like a company name and a blurb. You can link code on your GitHub, which I recommend. You can add in fonts, logos, and assets. And then you can also add in any sort of other notes in terms of how you portray yourself or how you portray your company, and details that you can give the AI to give it a better outcome. We also have the slide deck where, as it sounds, you can build out slide decks in real time very quickly. They look nice, feel nice, and it's just another simple way to approach building out presentations without having to do it yourself. From there, we also have a template where you can create similar to. Then we have the template feature where you can create your own templates. From there, if we head over here, we can see the examples. Now, if I click on the examples, there are a ton of different options here that you can simply grab right from Claude. So we have like an Aurora field, we have a gravity grid, all sorts of fun stuff. We can go down here, we can do app onboarding, text streaming, text particle effects as well. So you can see there. One that I really enjoy is the iridescent card, and you're able to change these as well to see different results. We also have a cosmic scale animation, so something similar. You can create videos and animations on this as well. We also then have, which I recommend highly, is the organic loaders as well. Something to just change up your website, make it look a little bit different, or make your app look a little bit different, and add your own spice to it to set yourself apart. And then lastly, if you need it, there is a calculator construction kit below there. Here's a quick look at something that I was able to do off of one single prompt. All I did was connect my GitHub into here and then drop in the link to my GitHub repository. Obviously, it's private. And then from there, I just simply said, hey, create a high-level interactive prototype of the dashboard for this product. Drop that in, and then it did the entirety of identifying everything and anything about the product. And then it asked me questions about what I would want this to look like. I answered those questions. And then from there, it designed the entirety of it for me. So if you want to take a look over here, this was off of one shot. It generated an entire dashboard, as you can see here, based off of my product, which is something that now I'm going to be able to take this and then utilize this design and tweak and change how my dashboard currently looks. Nice thing is, in the bottom right corner, we can see this tweak, so I can change it to fit. All right, what would an independent contributor see? What would a manager see? And what would an admin see? We also have, what if we have an active user, a new user, or a power user as well? So you can see the time change down here. And then density. If you want to be more compact, more comfy, roomy, we can change the accent color as well. There's tons of different opportunities here. And then if you want to make any changes, all you need to simply do is go down here and type in the changes that you are looking to make. If you're curious about the design files, you can click right here, and then you can see every single piece, and then you can individually go and edit them as well by clicking on them. Now, as great as this platform is, there is a bigger deal that I want to make sure I highlight, and that's that Figma stock dropped about 5% today. And Mike Krieger, Anthropic's chief product officer and co-founder of Instagram, actually just resigned from Figma's board right before this drop, and that's not a coincidence. Now, Anthropic is not positioning this as a Figma killer. In fact, Canva is actually a launch partner. They specifically told TechCrunch that Claude Design is for people who aren't starting from a design tool. That's the tell. This isn't for senior designers. This is for the rest of us, the founders, the PMs, the marketers, the consultants, and the small business owners who need to get from an idea to something visible without having to open Figma and stare at a blank artboard for 20 minutes. Now, I'm going to break this down into 5 parts. What it actually is, how it works, what you can make with it, the usage cost warning nobody's talking about, and then who should and shouldn't use this. So Claude Design is a visual creation tool inside of Claude that turns a prompt into an editable, polished design artifact. It could be slides, websites, one-page, or prototypes, and it runs on Opus 4.7, which is Anthropic's newest and most powerful model that released just a couple of days ago. And it's built to be the bridge between I have an idea and I have something I can send a client without you ever having to open a traditional design tool. So when you usually open up Claude, you're really just getting text back, maybe a table or maybe some code. With Claude Design, it's giving you a visual artifact on a canvas. You can then see the thing being built in front of you. You can then click on parts of it, you can drag sliders, and it feels more like Canva or Figma than it does like a chatbot. Now, the core insight that Anthropic is betting on is that most people don't need a better design tool. They need a way to skip the design tool entirely. And if you're running a 5-person company and you need a pitch deck by Tuesday, you don't want to have to learn Figma. You want to describe your business and get a deck. That's the whole product. And one more thing that's worth knowing is that Claude Design writes visuals as HTML and CSS under the hood. That matters because the output isn't a flat image. It's structured, editable, and if you want to hand it off to a developer or put it into Claude Code, you can then turn it into a real product because the bones are already there. So there are basically 4 steps and 4 ways to refine your output. Step 1 is to describe what you want. You type a prompt like build me a landing page for an AI consulting business targeting small law firms, and then Claude can go and build you a first version. I'm talking like 30 seconds up to a couple minutes depending on the complexity. Step 2, Claude then generates the first version on the canvas. You're watching it build in real time, and as we've already seen, it's pretty good. Not perfect, but it's closer to a first draft than a blank page, which is the whole point. Step 3 is where it gets pretty interesting, and that's in refinement. Now, you have 4 ways to change what Claude made. Option 1 is just to talk to it, saying something like, hey, make the headline punchier, or change the hero color to navy, add a testimonial section. It then updates the artifact. Option 2 is in inline comments. You can click directly on an element on the canvas, whether it be a button, a section, or a heading, and then leave a comment like, hey, this feels too corporate. And then Claude reads that comment and then changes just that element. Then option 3 is in direct edits. You can just edit the thing yourself. Click into the text, change the copy, and then Claude learns from what you did. Then option 4, and this one is the one that's pretty fun, is AI generated sliders. Claude generates custom sliders for your specific design, so it might make a formality slider that goes from casual to corporate, or a density slider that spreads out or tightens up the layout. You push the slider and the design updates live. That last one is the thing that I really haven't seen anywhere else, and it's Claude saying, hey, here are the knobs that matter for your specific design, instead of giving you a generic set of tools, which is really smart. Then we have the export system, and with the export, all you need to do is head up in the top right corner, you can see the export button, and we have 6 different options here. So you can download the project as a zip, you can export it as a PDF, export it as a PowerPoint presentation, send it directly to Canva, which is Claude's way of saying, hey, we'll do 0 to 80%, and then Canva is going to get you that last 20%. You can then export it as a standalone HTML, or if you're wanting to turn this into a true product, hand it off to Claude Code. With that being said, let's look at the top 5 use cases that I've found where Claude Design can save you some good time, maybe a little bit of money, especially if you're running a business or working as a professional. The first use case is in creating pitch decks. So let's say you have an investor meeting or a client pitch or maybe even a board update. Instead of spending 4 hours wrestling with slide templates, you can simply open up Claude Design, describe your company, your traction, and what you're trying to communicate, and you're going to get a first draft that all you need to do is do a little bit of refining, maybe in Canva or PowerPoint, and you're good. Piece 2 is in creating a landing page. This could be either to hand off to somebody else or for yourself. So for example, if you were to be launching a new service, you could then show your dev team what you want the page to look like. Instead of having to open up Figma, which that might not even be something that you know how to do, you simply describe the page in Claude Design, then get an interactive HTML prototype, and then share the URL. And then now everybody knows exactly what you're looking to do. And use case 3 is one of my favorites, and that's the client-facing one-pager. So I do this all the time for consulting work. And basically a potential client asks for a proposal, and instead of building it into a Google Doc and it looking like a Google Doc, I describe the deliverable, and then Claude builds a polished, really good-looking one-pager with sections, callouts, pricing, and all I have to do is export it to a PDF and then send it. So it looks like a designer made it, and a designer definitely did make it. And use case 4 is the internal mockup that's going to save everyone a ton of time. Now, this one's huge for PMs and operations people. So you've got an idea for an internal dashboard or an app. Now, before you go to an engineer and say, hey, you need to build this, you can prototype it in Claude Design. Now, stakeholders can click through a working prototype, they can give you feedback, then you iterate, and by the time engineering even touches it, you've already killed all the bad ideas. And that's weeks worth of saved dev time. Then use case 5 is in brand consistent marketing, especially at scale. So if you have brand guidelines, even just a document with your colors, your fonts, and your voice, Claude Design can read that and generate on-brand assets. One of my colleagues, Charlie Hills, has been writing about this for months on his Substack, and he's basically been saying, hey, I've been doing this manually inside Claude Code by giving it brand rules and getting on-brand HTML output. Well, now Claude Design formalizes that workflow so you can spin up a week's worth of social graphics, email headers, and flyers, all matching your brand, and easily under an hour. Now, this in no way is replacing a designer if you have one. But if you're in the bucket of people who were going to either do it yourself badly or hire a freelancer for $300 a pop, or just not do it at all, this shifts what's possible. And I did want to highlight this because I have not seen a single launch article or any other folks talking about it. And it's one of the most important things that I can tell you about Claude Design. So I fired up Claude Design today and I gave it one prompt, and that was just to build that dashboard that I was talking about. Literally like one sentence. And when it was done, I checked my usage dashboard and I had burned through about 1/4 of my weekly allowance for this new platform. That was just one prompt, and that's not a bug. So what I want to do is explain why this is happening, because understanding this is the difference between using Claude Design as a superpower and then using Claude Design and then suddenly being locked out for up to even a week. So reason 1 is that Opus 4.7 has its own separate weekly usage pool. Most people don't realize this. Sonnet and Haiku run on one pool. Then Opus, the most powerful model, runs on a completely separate, more restrictive weekly cap. Anthropic advertises somewhere around 15 to 35 hours per week of Opus on the max plan, but heavy users report burning through it in 3 to 5 hours of real work. And if you burn your weekly Opus cap, you have to wait until the next reset, not the 5-hour reset, the weekly reset. And that could be 3 or 4 or up to, like I said, a week before you're able to use Opus again. Reason 2 is that Opus 4.7 simply just costs way more tokens. So when Anthropic released Opus 4.7, which was a couple of days ago, they updated the tokenizer, basically the thing that chops your text into units Claude can read. The new tokenizer costs about 10 to 35% more tokens for the exact same text compared to Opus 4.6. So a prompt that used to consume about 2,000 tokens might now consume 2,700. That matters a lot when your weekly budget is fixed. Now, reason 3 is that design artifacts are really token heavy. Claude Design is running HTML, CSS, structured layouts, content, and variations all at once. It's iterating on long context, and it's producing rich visual outputs. Now, every time you refine, it has to reprocess the whole artifact. Every slider you drag is another round trip, and this is the most token-intensive workflow that Claude has, and it's running on the most token-expensive model. So if you stack those 3 things, separate Opus pool, new expensive tokenizer, and token-heavy workflows, you're going to get what happened to me, and that's one prompt taking up almost a full week of usage. So I have 3 rules here to tackle this problem. Rule 1 is to scope your prompts before you fire them. Don't open Claude Design and say, hey, build me everything. Sketch out what you want first, know your sections, your copy, your structure, because the more specific your first prompt is, the less iteration you're going to have, and iteration is where the usage is going to burn up. Rule 2 is to do rough drafting in regular Claude with Sonnet, then move to Claude Design for the polish. Now, Sonnet is a separate pool, so you can use it to brainstorm structure, write your copy, and plan the entirety of it. Then go into Claude Design with a clean brief and let Opus do the heavy lifting in one focused session. And then rule 3 is to check your usage dashboard every few prompts. Now, it takes about 30 seconds. You can clearly see it there right on your screen, and then you can see where you stand. If you've burned 60% of your Opus in one session, stop, save your work, and come back at a later point. Now, one more thing worth mentioning is that if you're hitting the cap constantly and Claude Design is becoming a part of your weekly workflow, honestly, I would recommend moving up to the Max plan because it's going to give you more than the Pro allows for 10x the price, which obviously sucks. But if this is something that is going to become like a must-have for you, I would recommend at least looking into it. So now here's who I think should be using Claude Design and who shouldn't. So you should be using Claude Design if you're a founder or solo operator who needs decks, one-pagers, or landing pages and doesn't have a designer. This is your new superpower. And if you're a marketer or consultant making client-facing deliverables such as proposals, pitch decks, or campaign mockups, same thing, this is for you. Or if you're a product manager who prototypes ideas before asking engineering to build them, this is great because you're going to be able to build those prototypes alone, which is saving the price of admission. And if you're a small business owner who was paying freelancers to do this, you can do it about 80% of the time by yourself. And if you're a content creator and want to check it out, I would wholeheartedly recommend at least seeing what type of visuals it can create without having to do the Canva grind. Now, you should skip it or use it carefully if you're a professional product designer working on a real team. Likely Figma is still going to be your tool. Claude Design is nice for fast concept exploration, but your component libraries, design handoff, and anything to do with like multi-designer collaboration is still going to live in Figma. I also don't recommend using Claude Design if you don't have a Claude Pro plan or higher, because it is gated. And honestly, if you're going to use it seriously, the Pro plan at $20 a month is going to burn out after like 2 prompts. So you would have to budget for the Max here. I also wouldn't recommend this if you need perfectly precise design work where every single pixel matters. The idea here is that Claude Design is fast and good, but it's not going to be super precision based, especially when you can burn through your usage so quickly. And also, Claude Design is much better when you can feed it your brand system. So if you don't have any brand documentation, this might not be for you as well, but it can also allow you to create that brand recognition and build upon that as you're looking to iterate with the tools. So Claude Design is one of those launches that a year from now, we're going to look back on and say, oh yeah, that's when visual creation stopped being something you needed a specialist for. But like every tool on the Opus stack, there is a trade-off, and the trade-off is in usage. Use it with a plan, and it's a cheat code. Use it without one, and you're locked out for half a week. So if this helped you figure out whether Claude Design is worth your time, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I'm putting out breakdowns like this every single week on what actually is happening in AI and what it means for people who are running businesses and doing real work. And let me know what you'd want to build first in Claude Design. I'm curious to see what the first thing you'd like to make is. I might even do a follow-up video where I build out top suggestions. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.